Today, we will be scrapping these HVAC units on Challenge the Build.
I love using my Makita 18-volt impact driver. I use a 1/4 inch adapter for it, so that way you can change out the sockets when necessary. Always good to have a chisel around. Definitely need a hammer. You're going to need a sawzall with a fine-tooth metal blade to cut the coils once everything gets taken apart. Sometimes you might need an extension, 1/4 inch drive extension. And as far as sockets, you really don't need too many. You need a 1/4 inch, 5/16. This is a 7/16, a 1/2 inch, and that's essentially all the sockets that you need to take them apart depending on what units you get. Always good to have a pair of channel locks, side cutter pliers for cutting the wire and even some of the copper tubing. Always need a pair of vice grips. And as far as safety is concerned, you definitely need a good pair of safety gloves. So with that being said and out of the way, we're going to start tearing these units apart. All right, so what you got to do first, grab the 7/16 socket, pop off the fan motor that's on the grate. And again, it all depends on what kind of unit you have. Then it drops out. Are you dancing or are you having a problem? Do you have to pee?
No, I can't get it out.
All right, then go for the grate that it was attached to. I apologize for the audio because it's starting to rain again. All right, so once that's taken apart, that can go in the truck for light iron. Generally, the casings on these are all light iron. Really, the good stuff comes in when you get to the coil and some of the copper. All right, so the next thing you want to do is switch out the driver to a 5/16 nut driver. And then every sheet or screw that you see, you want to take out. Doesn't matter where it's at or what it's doing, you want to take it out. Okay, once you take them all out, the top should pop right off. Grab your side. Go ahead and grab your side cut. Oh, there you go. Easy enough. So then once that comes off, then you can expose the compressor housing and then the fan, which this was already cut. So the fan, we got an electric motor that will eventually process out. In order to do that, you take your pair of vice grips, pop this set screw off, the fan blades come off, and then you'll have just the motor. But we're going to focus more on the unit itself. Go ahead and take the screws off the bottom, Jake. All the way around the bottom. Within 30 minutes, you can have one of these broke down. So the coils themselves are copper aluminum, and they generally are about $1. They average about $1 a pound, depending on what yard you go to. And then from what I've found is copper averages out to about $2 a pound right now. And again, it all depends on what yard you're going to and how much you're paying, but there's normally about, from what I've seen, about a 20 cents difference per pound price on copper between number 1 and number 2. And then I'll show you how I process the number 1 and number 2 copper quickly and efficiently. Continue taking screws out on the unit. You probably have a couple more in there. Demolition is the best part, so you don't ever have to worry about saving anything. So that's essentially how the unit breaks down. And then the next thing that you got to do, so you grab your side cutters and then you come in here and cut that one. Actually, I guess I could cut it down here. So you cut there, and then that whole thing will lift off. Go ahead and lift the coil off, Jake. So the coil lifts off. We'll put that aside for in a minute. We'll process that out in a minute, and then go ahead and grab your 1/2 inch socket. And then what he's going to do is go after these 4 1/2 inch bolts.
Okay, that's good. Go for the next one.
Let's see if he ate his Wheaties, see how strong he is today. And then just set that off to the side. And you have essentially broke down a unit. That's really all it takes. It's 7 minutes on the clock. That goes light iron. And then what we want to do is I normally set these aside for another day, because I'll come in here and cut the copper tubes off, and then I'll split in another video. I'll show you how I split these apart and pull the electric compressor motor out of these and process the electric motor. But the next step we got to do is process the coil. So I'm gonna get the Sawzall set up and we'll process the coil. All right, so the next step is we brought the coil back into the video, and what you want to do is you could take it to the scrapyard just like it is, but they're not going to give you clean copper aluminum price. They're going to give you a dirty price, which is substantially less. So it only takes about 30 seconds to a minute. And what you got to do is run your Sawzall down here and cut the end tubes off of the coil on this side and this side, but there's a plate here in the way that we're going to have to take some channel locks to in order to run the Sawzall blade down effectively. So, and all you got to do is you take a pair of channel locks and bend this away. All you got to do is bend this away, so that way you can run your Sawzall blade down in between the coil. So that's what you're going to see us do next. Now if you do it right, they actually fall right out. I know my Sawzall blade's a little worn out, so it was cut a little bad, but then what you do is take a pair of pliers, grab them, and then pull them out. And then what it becomes is, these are number 2 copper, and then this is just light iron. So it takes, you know, about a minute or so per side, I guess, to really get it clean. But, you know, it definitely gives you the best price per pound on everything, and for a little bit of time to make a little bit more money, who wouldn't love that? All right, I'm going to give you guys, actually I'm not going to, my daughter's going to show you the difference between number 1 and number 2 copper and exactly why we sort it for the best possible price. All right, so tell us what the difference is between number 1 and number 2 copper.
Number 1 copper is considered clean because it has no solder marks and no welding marks. And number 2 copper is considered dirty because it has welding marks and a lot of solder.
Very good. The key with trying to get the best price per pound is efficiency. So the fastest way that I've come up with as far as cutting and cleaning the copper is a plate shear. So if we put this in the plate shear and cut this off and cut here, this little tube becomes number 1 and everything else becomes number 2. So we'll take a minute and we'll show you how we do that. All right, so what we got here is we got some muscle for the machine power. I got this off of Amazon specifically for processing scrap metal. It can do other things in the shop. It is a Shop Fox 12-inch plate shear. I'm going to give you guys a small product review on it in a later video, but for right now, for this purpose, I'm going to show you guys how we process the copper tubing. Like my daughter said, this is at the moment number 2 copper, only because of that solder mark there. So all we have to do is put that in there. The muscle goes down, and within a matter of seconds, we just turned number 2 copper into number 1 copper with a simple shear. So now, again, within 5 seconds, we turned a piece of number 2 into a really nice piece of number 1. The smaller, obviously the smaller the tubes, the easier it is to cut it. So right now this is considered number 2 because of all that garbage. Simple little cut turns it into number 1. Same thing here. We still have number 2 with 2 simple cuts. We have effectively turned a piece of number 2 into number 1 and still number 2. So, like I said, I specifically bought the plate shear to process the copper tubing for my scrap. And it does a really good job. My kids love to come out here with me and be the manpower behind it. Obviously, you do not want to put your fingers in there. So make sure if you have one or are going to buy one, you read and follow all safety precautions and product recommendations on how to use it. All right, so now it's the girls' turn. Girls can do it too, you know. Give me a muscle, Ab. Let me see a muscle. Yeah, there you go. All right, so what we're gonna do is same procedure. Start with the fan motor and then rotate around to the small screws. This is a little bit different unit. I have not seen one of these before, so we'll learn together. And 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so now that the coil's off, again, the same situation. What you want to do is go ahead and take your Sawzall and cut between the flat steel here and the copper aluminum coil right down here, and that'll drop this away. And then what you can do is pull out all the number 2 copper coil from it, and that way here it gives you the best possible price for the coil itself. So after that comes off, then all you're left with is the compressor. Same as before, compressor 1/2-inch bolts, 4 bolts. The compressor comes up We will focus on another video specifically on these compressors, because there's a little bit of gold, and when I say gold I mean copper. There's a decent amount of copper that are inside these pumps. So that about wraps up our video. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, watching this video. In upcoming videos we'll finally get to looking at 59 Viking. As always, I want you guys to challenge the build, and have a great day.
Please like this video.
Please subscribe to the channel.
Please leave a comment down below.